Turn on your camera. Remotely. Okay. All right. I'll call to order the regular board meeting of the New Orleans Municipal Yacht Harbor for Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. Attendance.
Keisha Turquette, Tim McConnell,
Present.
Christopher Hammond,
Chris did notify us, he had said he would be here, but he had an emergency.
Mark Heck,
Present.
Bonnie Crew, present, Roger Watkins, Amy Washington, Ronnie Vince.
All right, we've got quorum. Move forward. Any proposed from the board, any proposed amendments to the published agenda? Hearing none, I have a motion to approve the agenda. It's published. Motion by Mark Heck. Second. Second by Bonnie Banks. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes. Presentation of the agenda. This is actually officially our annual meeting, which is held March of every year, at which we vote to approve the people who are nominated for the officers of the board. We have one nomination at each position. It is actually the current officers. Myself as president, Chris Hammond as vice president, Dr. Monty Criddle as secretary, and Roger Watkins as treasurer. Do we have any, those people put forth by committee, so they're nominated by committee, a motion by committee, any nominations from the board? There are none. Vote to approve the current nominations for officers. All those in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? All right, so those are the nominated, those are the board elected officers of the board for the next year, this time next year. All right, next item is a resolution thanking Jessica Addison for her service. Jessica resigned from the board for personal reasons. We have a resolution. It says, whereas the New Orleans Municipal Yacht Harbor Management Corporation is a public benefit corporation of the City of New Orleans, which leases from the City of New Orleans property rights at West End. And whereas the Municipal Yacht Harbor is responsible for the operation and management of the city's assets in the West End area. And whereas Jessica Addison has been volunteering actively at the Municipal Yacht Harbor as a member of the board of directors of the Municipal Yacht Harbor. And whereas Jessica Addison has worked very closely with the Municipal Yacht Harbor board and staff, providing consistent and uninterrupted dedication to the Municipal Yacht Harbor. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Directors of the Municipal Yacht Harbor express its heartfelt thanks to Jessica Addison for her service, leadership, and guidance that she has provided to the New Orleans Municipal Yacht Harbor Management Corporation this March 12th, 2024. And the signing certifies that they are hereby appointed and qualified Secretary of the Municipal Yacht Harbor, a corporation duly conformed pursuant to the laws of the state of Louisiana. And that said meeting was held in accordance with the state laws and bylaws of the above-named corporation. This resolution has been approved by the Board of Directors of the Municipal Yacht Harbor Corporation on March 12, 2024. And that will be signed and sent to her. Thank Jessica for her service. A motion to accept this resolution. Motion by Dr. Criddle.
Second.
Second by Mark Heck. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on our agenda. We have a motion. I would like to get a motion to reorganize committees and subcommittees. We've talked about two committees, and the committee schedules. We've talked about this for a while. We have everybody on this board. These were in existence when we got here. We have a quality of life committee, and we have a safety and security committee. And what happened repeatedly is the same items come up again and again. Certainly anything that's a safety and security issue is absolutely a quality of life issue. And sometimes the other way around. Sometimes quality but we have we'd like a motion to merge those two committees into a single committee. I think it will allow us to get better feedback and not have duplication of efforts. So I'd like to get a motion to merge the quality of life and the safety and security committees.
So
Motion by Marquette, second by Dr. Criddle. Any discussion? Any questions?
I mean, I think this makes a lot of sense. I mean, we see it in the meetings all the time, in the public comments, and the same item. So,
Do we have any comment cards? No public comment. All right. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. I would like a second motion. We don't need a motion to set the dates. So what I want to do is go ahead and announce the dates. So the dates for that combined quality of life and safety and security committee will be, and I'm going to say it here, but they'll be on our website for everybody to monitor, and we always send out notices, and they always precede this regular meeting. So they generally at 5:30 before this meeting. For that committee, May 14th, August 13th, November 12th, and February 11th, for the next 12 months. That meeting is going to be scheduled. The Finance Committee meetings are going to be set now. They will wind up being June 11th, September 10th, December 10th, and March 11th. That's obviously 2025. Those are dates that we are setting here, and they'll be published, and once again, the well announced at the meeting and put on our website. All right.
Who would be the chairman of the quality of life? And the other?
Has not been set yet, but we're going to set that. The executive board will set that. If you remember, if you were at the meeting when we discussed our new bylaws, we're still waiting for signature. They're going through legal review and signature. Once that happens, there will be more fluid and how we go by from that. When we set the members, all the members, we set the members on this like our chair. And we'll announce that now.
And the people that I'm on the quality of life, we will continue to serve.
Yeah. No.
Thank you.
Let me clarify that though. Committees are only board members, but we obviously have something, and one of the things we've allowed in the bylaws is employees to be put on boards, and obviously the committees aren't accomplishing anything if they don't have input and people attending. They're open to everybody, and we appreciate everybody being at them, but actually the committees are being voted, because they vote, committees vote. So it has to be people who then bring any actions they vote on, then come before the full board for adoption. They come out of committee, that's why you don't hear me sometimes say it comes by motion of committee. Something comes out of the committee by majority, it's automatically a motion before the full board. So you need a motion in the meeting, because you got at least 2 votes out of committee. It's just Robert's rules of order, not, you know. Okay. The next is unfinished business. So at the last meeting, it was brought up about the Big Green Easy study that was done by the city of New Orleans, and it had come out 2 days prior to the meeting. So, we were asked to comment on it, and we asked to give us to this meeting to actually look at it. It's a 205-page report. So we've looked at it, and the West End has mentioned it a couple of times in the report. One of the items is mentioned, so I'll go through a couple of times it's mentioned. First of all, the report came out and it focuses on where the city wants to, first of all, trying to get a unified plan for the city, trying to get more funding. It talks about more equity, so what areas have parks that aren't developed versus areas that are developed, where are parks used, what are they used for. It's a very extensive study if you read it. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm going to talk about how it affects us, where we mentioned it. It still has a long way to go for its development, because once again, it's just published, and there are a lot of actionable items in there. One of the ways that we're mentioned in it first is it talks about, and this is a short part of the short-term stuff, is moving, and I'll quote directly from it, investigate the transfer of ownership and management of West End Park to the city. It talks about the creation of a new chief park planning officer. That has not been created yet. It's just one of the things it says, that it would be someone who would oversee all of the planning and funding for parks. One of the best examples, only a little bit of a rabbit hole here though, is that you have parks and parkways and you have recreation. It's two separate entities, and they both manage a huge amount of green space, and it notes that we're the only major community over 250,000 that they can find that does that, but they're not one and the same. So that's one of their major recommendations, and then take a lot of other parks that are under various management. We have Audubon, we have City Park, we have us, and trying to put them under one umbrella. We're trying to get a little bit more feedback from it. They're going to start having some more meetings about how do we implement. Now that all this work was done in the study, how do we implement it? So we're trying to get some more feedback. What does that mean? Are you talking about the green space out here? So we've heard at this meeting. Why isn't the parks and parkways cutting our trees? Why are we spending money to do that? Cut our grass. I said it at this meeting before when they came up. Do you really want that? Because they're not keeping up with what they got to cut now, unless they got more money for it. And so we're trying to find out, what do they mean? Are they talking about just our green space, the parks, and the trees, or are they talking about this whole area? I haven't been able to get anybody in the city that's aware of what the team that did, the consultants that did it, and they had very, very brief conversations with us. Just, how do y'all operate? What do you do? Why are you allowed to do that? So we cited the laws and state statutes that set our corporation up. What are they talking about? If that's the recommendation and the city adopts that, we'll help you to obtain that transition, if that's what it is. Our belief is that they're talking about the green space. Why do we have a park here that the Parks and Parkways isn't managed? But we'll find out what that is. The other way we're mentioned in it is that we are identified as a destination park with a number 2 priority. And the definition of a destination park is destination parks, I'm reading the definition right out of the description, are iconic and serve the whole community in addition to visitors. These parks belong to everyone, bring people together for community-wide events, promote tourism and economic development. So that's where they mentioned it. The other thing is the city did a economic development study last year that was published about how do you utilize it. We hear about it. You hear about it right now with what's going on downtown by the convention center, river district development, tips and how they're used. And so once again, trying to bring all that under one umbrella. How do you get development without, how do you identify areas where you want development without giving tips, which you give up some of their income? Right? If you give a tax incentive where you develop something, you might not be getting as much taxes if it develops on its own. So that's mentioned, and I'm trying to get to that section where it is. So we are mentioned in the study as one of the future economic development districts in that study, and they cited that in keeping of this area being an economic development district. And so that's where they mentioned this in the study. We're yet to see, what that means, what actions are going to come out of the city related to this area that we manage. Everybody, I believe, is well aware that we're already looking at economic development. We have a committee, we've hired a consultant, and we're well into that. Whatever steps they take, whether they leave us intact, move it to a new management model, the work we're doing will just be passed on to whoever's running this has to have something. And so you kind of think of it as, I would think of it as this: either we continue doing what we're doing and We have our meetings and everything like we have promised to have. And we pass on a toolbox to the next entity if that's what happens. Now, it's our toolbox to take out what we want, we do what we want. And so, I'm not sure how much everybody else has delved into it or whatever points that anyone else wants to make. We'll certainly we'll take public comment, but any other board members have any feedback they want to provide on?
I mean, Tom, I think you hit most of the pertinent points. I mean, there's a few maps in there that are interesting about what they define as West End Park that aren't super clear because they're not large scale when you see them in a computer. But pretty clearly defined it as kind of within the roadways. What we typically see as West End Park. And, you know, I get the feeling that I don't think the municipal yacht harbor management corporation would cease to exist. It'd be more probably they would be responsible for the boat leases, those kind of things, and they would just take the space, as you said, which, again, you know, doesn't always lead to the best.
If they stay. If they fund it, it talks about, I'm sorry, Mark, but it does talk about, you know, woefully underfunded Nord and, I mean, that's the biggest recommendation that I saw, it was merging those two, but also increasing their funding by, you know, 2/3 almost, to give it the ability to do what it needs to do. So, I mean, everybody's seeing overgrown areas and stuff, and although everybody's not always happy with how often we manage to get it cut, we're asking for it to be cut more often and get what we get, and we're using the exact same people at Park and Parkway. So Brian, if you attend these meetings regularly and listen, astutely, Brian reached out to Park and Parkway, and I spoke to the head of Park and Parkways, and they were like, y'all are doing the same thing we're doing. I'll hire the people we would hire. So, but, I'm sorry, Mark.
No, that's really good.
What was the date of the study?
The study came out the week of our last meeting, so right at Monday.
Oh, so the recent study?
Yes, they've been working on it for over a year, and they just published it a week. A week of March, okay.
So is this study going to be used to, I guess, in the pursuit of the RFQ, or how do
No.
you think that study will be utilized? Who will use that study?
The city's gonna use it to figure out how they're gonna manage green spaces and primarily where do you target first. So it goes into great depth and a lot of work put into what resources we have. Well, first of all, how do we raise more resources? What do we need? And that's detailed in there, how much they think they need comparative to comparative communities. But if we get it, where do we go first? We can't do it all at once. Where do we get the 100 million? Where do we spend it every year? Where do we target? So they clearly identify a list of where the primary targets, what are the next targets, you know, and so on and line. Park that's in really good shape, these neighborhoods not to be developed. A lot of parks are in total shambles, and they need total development in communities that, as it turns out, obviously, I hate to say it, but I'll say obvious, but communities that have the most needs are the ones that have the worst parks. So that's where you see them targeting the areas that have parks that are in really bad condition. But they're trying to, and I hate to be quoted because I read it, it's 25 pages, but they're talking about everyone being able to walk to a park from their house within less than a 30-minute walk. There are areas that don't have anything near that, whereas a lot of areas have, I mean, I can walk to 5 parks, unfortunately. I can walk to 5 parks within a minute, it's 5 minutes, exactly, within 5 minutes. So that's where they're trying to target first. I think that's what it's going to be used for. It doesn't talk about any economic development from what like we're doing. It talks about how do they use green space. But because of the study done, it's mentioned. Any public comment? All right, so I just wanted to cover that across the last meeting. All right.
Do we need to fill out a form for public comment?
Yeah, please. The next item is Economic Redevelopment Committee. It did not meet. But Brian, in his executive report, will touch on, he has had conversations, and I know that they are meeting with public officials. We talked about the last meeting was going to happen, and they have been doing that. And we told them to start meeting with the elected officials. Quality of life, did not have a meeting.
You skipped the page, Tim.
I'm sorry, Brian.
You skipped the page.
We bypassed finance report.
I sure did. And the director's report. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. This is the whole page. All right. I was hesitant to lick my fingers to turn the page because I was shaking hands. All right, I apologize. Financial report.
Sure.
As of February 29th, 2024, Municipal Yacht Harbor Corporation has total assets of $17,343,000, with current assets of $15,829,000, and the bulk of which is in the form of cash, $3.372 million in two accounts at JP Morgan Chase. Net fixed assets total $1.343 million. Other assets include leases receivable of $12.295 million and deferred outflow of pension resources of $166,100. On the liability side, Yacht Harbor Corporation has total liabilities of $13,221,000, of which $457,000 are current liabilities, consisting mainly of accounts payable and accrued expenses of $75,400, unearned revenues of $203,700, and accrued annual leave and sick leave of $168,000. Long-term liabilities consist of net pension liability of $496,100 and $12.268 million for deferred inflow of long-term leases. That leaves Yacht Harbor Corporation with total equity of $4.12 million, of which $3.62 million is unrestricted net assets. For the month of February, Yacht Harbor Corporation had revenues of $181,500 and operating expenses of $187,500, which resulted in a net loss of $6,000.
Roger Parker, treasurer, like the report. Roger, this one for the All right, motion to accept the financial report.
So moved.
Moved by Heck, second by Brian Banks. Any discussion, questions, any comment, thoughts? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No one opposed. All right, Ron, I want to give you the record report. But that's when you realize I skipped the page, huh?
Just the first thing to say is the Wednesday night racing starts tomorrow, and there will be a fireworks display put on by Gulf Coast Bank, 7:45 p.m. at the point. Staff hiring, we're now fully staffed with grounds patrol officers, and are getting not quite 24-hour coverage in-house, but close to it. No update on fishing pier. The lease of the boathouses under our control. The city council introduced the ordinance on first read at the last meeting. So however long the waiver has to be, it will go before the city council, hopefully for approval. If that happens, we will hold an auction. Details will follow as soon as we get fully approved by council. West End Park and Breakwater Park, we're continuing the site upgrades. The drinking fountain work is in progress. Spigot work is in progress. Hopefully those will be finished. The plumbers are ordering parts now, so those should be operational fairly soon. The previous issues we talked about, permitting, no specific change right now, but we'll find out when we try to get a permit for the next thing. Parking lot rental, notification of illegally parked vehicles have been released. Signage has been installed. And the trailer owners will request to contact us by March 11th. We've had some people contact us, plenty that haven't. So I'm going to reach out again to try and get more response before we take any action on that. We do have several people renting those spaces from us now. The marina Wi-Fi concrete pads are installed. I'm waiting on the contractor to finish whatever they have to do with the poles to come install it. The previous quality of life requests, no update. Parking, the point parking improvements and other striping is held. The drawings for the east entrance striping were received. I'm waiting for a couple bids. As soon as I get the quotes, I don't need to do anything other than pick the lowest one, so we'll get that done as soon as possible. And then the point layout that we were meeting with, they gave me a first draft, which was very broad and big. I'll pare them down, so hopefully I'll have something to present to the board for the next meeting. West End development expenses, current, as of this year's expenses, $29,270, and that includes, they're all through Stone Pigment, the law firm, and that includes some of their payments to HRA and the AR group. That's all I have.
I have a question. What methods do you have for taking payments? Say for these, rental in parking lot or,
We do ACH check or credit card.
okay, so you do it all.
We're operating with like dry total facilities.
Okay.
So we're using the same management system that we usually do.
Any other questions from any other board members?
You said, the quality of life professional update, is that saying that you received any requests, or you don't have any updates on some of the things that we mentioned last time?
No updates that weren't discussed the last time.
Like the cans, additional cans,
Right.
signage.
I guess the cans were one, the cans that were up for discussion, I overlooked that. They have been removed, so they're picked up.
So there's a few, I have the garbage cans with standing water, that you said that was picked up. Pressure washing on the other side, like some, one side was done by the homeowner. But there's still areas that need to be pressure washed. And, signage for, dogs, there was, someone mentioned that someone to review the signage and pick up, not that they would, but having a sign there may help. And then there was a question about the additional trees being cut, the clarity on what the contract included, and in the future, maybe include that, or is that something we're doing, sooner than later?
I mean, we discussed this at the last meeting, but.
So was it, I can't remember if it was resolved. So-
Yeah, the contract with the tree cutting did what was in the contract.
Okay.
One of the boathouse owners said that they skipped their trees. I did an inspection of all the trees along the boathouses, and none of them appeared to be trimming. In the future, we will certainly.
I just tag on to that. I had followed up on him and I thought, what it appeared, so the boathouse owner had said he had 5 trees and they trimmed 2, but not the other 3. Upon inspection, it looks like they trimmed the 2 that needed trimming and not the others that didn't need trimming. But in the future, we'll make sure that include all trees that are on our property. Any other questions about the director's report?
And I have a question about, HRA, they're meeting with public, with elected officials at this time, so are those meetings not attended by, you or the meetings that they're having with the elected officials?
Yeah, I haven't.
Also, somebody is there, people. So, at those meetings, what does that look like? They're just, talking about what the possibilities are they just hearing, I guess, perhaps scheduling times where it could be more public input? What's happening at those meetings? What's the purpose of those meetings?
The purpose of those meetings is to inform the political stakeholders of what's going on, so that when they're ready to start taking public input, they're aware of what's happening.
And so, if they're having those meetings now, so how many elected officials do they speak to before we move to the next step?
I mean, they would have to get all of that.
I think it's about 5.
Is it possible?
At least. I mean, and the reason I'm saying I'm hemming on that certainly the districts it falls in. So Joe Russo's district, Hans Liljeburg's district. But at large, so Ellen Jefferson, Jennifer Van Rankin was Hans Liljeburg's spot, so she has an interest in it, so she may want to meet. So they're reaching out to, and then Jennifer, Stephanie Hilferty, it's her district, she's actually her district. So the folks who we know it's their district, they're reaching out to, and then circling with the other at large, who may also have an interest.
Have you all met with anybody, or can you share that? Like who have you already met with? What is it?
We met with Judge Russo.
Judges.
So I guess the reason why I'm asking is we have 5 elected officials that we're meeting with, and it takes 3 months to meet with one. Like, so just what's the timeline on it? I know it's their availability and different things like that. Sometimes it's hard to get in contact with people. But I think we should put some sense of urgency in meeting with the elected officials, having a checklist. If there's 5, by this time, we need to meet with 3 or 4, or we could always say, okay, we're meeting with elected officials and months transpire.
I think it hadn't been 5 months. They've only finished, got to the point where they were ready to present to them less than a month ago. So they just got this when they started asking me with them. So only been not even a month before they started asking me. And I met with Jerusalem, and expanded everything I need with Williamsburg coming up. So I don't anticipate it'll be a long time. I'll say, with that said, the state just went into session, so hopefully they can get a meeting with Hilton's office sooner than later, because the session started Monday. And she does have legislation proposed regarding this development. So I'll walk through it again, but so everybody understands. The land that we're talking about, that everybody's aware of, that we call the restaurant area, right? Some of it's clearly under our management. Some of it, the land within New Orleans is clearly under our management. There's land that is in Jefferson Parish, and it's in Jefferson Parish. There is no management contract for it or anything Jefferson Parish has. It's their land. Not their land, it's state property in Jefferson Parish. This is what we manage, is state property in Orleans Parish that the state has a lease with the municipal yacht harbor or with the city to manage, and the city has an agreement with us to manage it for the city. The land in Jefferson Parish, state property in Jefferson Parish. Think state courthouse, the state property, they're in the parish. Jefferson does not have an agreement to manage that property with the state. So anything that goes on there requires the state, it requires Jefferson Parish, and it requires us. She's put forth, I know one piece of legislation that's out there is to be able to allow for an agreement to lease that property to somebody. So those steps are being done. So it isn't like she's in a vacuum, but she should have a meeting with the people who are developing because we talked about it at the meeting. I'm not saying that I should remember this, I'm rehashing it so everybody understands. People ask from the audience, well, what about the CEA? Whatever happens, everyone has to agree. So although we're developing this RFP, and before it goes out, it's only a draft RFP, so everybody looks at it and says, okay, I'm good with that, or I want it amended, I want it changed, so to get everybody on the same page. And so that's why these meetings are being had, before we come out with anything, because it would be senseless to me to have public meetings, and then the powers that be, that actually can impede anything that happens, say, well, wait, I ain't what I thought it was. So that's why meetings are happening, so that we, whenever we do go public, we need to get up there and tell the public, this is what we're envisioning, we want feedback, and the public gives their feedback, and then what comes out of the other end of the meat grinder, the politicians go, I'm not going to go with that. That's why it's so critical to have these meetings, and yes, we are at that time. The consultants, I think to your point though, the consultant's motivated because they don't get paid till they have. So, I mean, you don't get paid all. Any other, any comment cards? All right. Rules and standards, no, there was no meeting, we approved, I'm sorry. We did not have a rules and standards committee. Quality of life, if you have anything to add, correct, on the record report, they did have meetings. Security and Safety Committee, we did have a meeting today, but no one showed up, except the board, so, it's a very short meeting. But with that said, we did actually just talk about the few items that were covered at the last safety and security meeting about signage being put up, and I think it got addressed. The signage for cameras through Friends of the West End is in the works, and we've made a request for speed signs, speed limit signs. All right. Do we have any comment cards on the other? Basically, that's it, folks. We have no executive session today. And so, anyone? Okay. All right. So our next meeting is on the calendar. Our next meeting would be April 9th at 6:30 in this location. Right. I'll take a motion.
Can I ask one question about the safety committee and the idea of putting speed bumps? I was riding somewhere, I can't recall where it was, on a regular street, and they had street bumps. And I think at some point there was discussion that you all couldn't put street bumps out there. But there are a lot of people that do speed along there, and plenty of times on the weekends with people showing off and doing whatever they do. So is that anywhere on you all's?
Well, it had been because it's not legal. The area you're talking about, I mean, I don't know where you talk about it, whether it's legal.
I can't remember where.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, somebody might put them, it doesn't make it legal, but we've looked into it and we're told we're not allowed.
Yeah, I don't think it was someone went and put them. I think it was done by the city. I think the city did that.
I'd certainly be in favor of making a case, particularly out there on
Breakwater.
Breakwater Drive. That's a long stretch. Most of the other places here, they go very forward without making a turn, like stop sign. Yeah, but that's out of our jurisdiction totally, but, certainly make a case. The city, Lake Marina boat driving into here, that's the city. So, city of Walmart.
Is that report online?
Yes, it is online. If you go to,
Just look up Big Green Easy.
yeah, it's called the Big Green Easy, and then put in NOLA.gov. Big Green Easy is the name of the entity that was, the committee that was formed to do it. I want to say it's under Parks and Parkways, but it'll take you there. You just type in Big Green Easy, NOLA.gov. I mean, there might be other links to it, but you want to find NOLA, not NOLA.com, but NOLA.gov, and it's right there.
So to request the speed bump, I mean, do you go to the city?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or is there,
Say it again,
We've
please.
requested it already.
Speed bumps on public roads, all right?
So Lakeshore Drive speed bumps are illegal?
That's under the levy districts, and they have their own laws. And the city of New Orleans on roads that New Orleans manages, I do not believe they allow you to put speed bumps in.
Well, what they
We
do
looked
is,
at it for crosswalks for schools and stuff at certain points, and we're always told that.
Interesting. So Lakeshore Drive is an anomaly. I mean, it says it's
Not
not.
within the city, on state property.
Yeah, it's under levy board, and so, yeah, they have different.
I'll give you this example. The city of New Orleans cannot enforce the fire code in this gun at all. State law. Federal courthouse, and, it's just, it's something written in the law, because I don't want local jurisdictions don't want the small legislature messing with the big legislature.
And so,
States can't sue.
I don't have clarity, Lake Marina Drive is city, but the
It's not, it is state property within the city.
state property in the city, and the, so Lake Marina Drive, we're talking about, not Lakeshore Drive, Lake Marina Drive. Is that also city, or is that state property in the city?
I think that's state, technically.
So it may be that.
You may be able to
it may
Lake
be that
Marina
we
Drive.
can do
We call levy.
it, the state jurisdiction is Lakeshore Drive. So I'll bring that up with Louis Capo in the levy board, and see if we have the opportunity to do speed bumps there outside of the city's jurisdiction. Good idea.
I don't think this board should comment on it just because it's not our jurisdiction.
No, it's true,
If it's in our
90% of people are
jurisdiction, we'll
saying.
make another request, but
That may be a win.
I certainly think nobody's speeding out here, so. There's a lot of speeding. All right,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? That is meeting. Ron, get the camera turned off?
Nope.